Those who channel the entity known as Ra report that he has been involved in the affairs of our planet for the past 75,000 years. At certain points in our history, Ra claims to have manifested a physical body. Today, Ra says, he exists on a level of pure vibration. He communicates with the group consciousness through dreams, and with individuals through channeling. The information in this article, in which Ra describes our evolution and coming planetary ascension, is paraphrased or quoted from channeled writings of a group who refer to themselves as LL Research. Please see sources of information on Ra. The origin of Ra. Long before the inception of life on this planet, Ray says, there were third-density life forms on Venus similar to our human forms on Earth. Through evolution, these life forms ascended beyond the third density and ultimately fused together into a unified complex, which is the entity we now refer to as Ra. Ra identifies himself as a social memory complex. According to Ra, there are 8 densities that all life must pass through, and in his present form, Ra exists on the 6th density. The Earth, Ra claims, is presently at the end of a 75,000-year cycle where many humans will graduate from the 3rd density to the 4th density by the process known as ascension. Ra's involvement in the history of Earth. 75,000 years ago. At that time, there were 3rd density beings on Mars. Mars became uninhabitable due to war, and it was Ra who helped the Martian souls to transmigrate and reincarnate on Earth. He says that these were the first humans on our planet. Even today, according to Ra, 50% of the present population of Earth is of Martian descent, which explains our propensity for warlike activity. 58,000 years ago, Ra gave help to the civilization known as Mu. 11,000 years ago, Ra describes how the Great Pyramid was built. When one can speak to that intelligence, the intelligence within rock, the finite physical energy of the physical rock body is put into contact with the infinite energy which is resident in the more well-tuned higher bodies. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle or body, and that splitting or moving which is desired is then carried out. 1. The purpose of the pyramids, Ra says, was healing and initiation. The chamber worked on the mind and body. The mind was affected by sensory deprivation and the reactions to being buried alive with no chance of extricating the self. The body was affected by both the configuration of the mind and by the electrical properties of the materials used. 7,500 years ago, Ra took a physical body in South America. This was his last physical appearance on Earth. To the present, Ra continues to be involved with humans in dream work and through channeling. The origin of the universe. Ra. The first known thing in creation is infinity. Then infinity becomes aware. As the Creator decides to experience itself, it manifests what we would perceive as outer space. As the Creator continues to experience itself, it manifests free will and love. The action of free will upon love creates maniness. Maniness first starts out as an outpouring of randomized creative force, which then creates patterns. The patterns of energy begin to regularize their own rhythms and fields, thus creating dimensions and universes. The galaxy, and all other material things, are the products of individualized portions of intelligent infinity. Each individualized portion of the one would become a co-creator and creates a universe. Each universe would evolve with its own set of natural laws. Any portion of any universe, no matter how small, contains, as in a holographic picture, the one creator which is infinity. Thus, all begins and ends in mystery. The 8 densities. Ra says that all life must evolve through 8 densities. It was you and I, he says, who created this universe. Those are our stars we dream on. We are the very same infinite intelligence that started it all way back when, and we are on a return path back to that self-same infinity, after which, we will recycle and start all over. Alpha and Omega, it never ends, as we cycle over and over through these 8 densities. and it is always the action of free will on love that propels our energies through the densities, creating the evolutionary movement. Here's a brief review of what Ra claims are the stages of this multi-billion-year cycle. First density, the four alchemical elements of earth, minerals, air, wind, fire, and water. The fire and wind act on the minerals and water, propelling evolution to consciousness and the second density. Second density, the beginning of animals and plants. This stage of evolution on Earth took 4.6 billion years. Third density, humankind's current stage. This is the density of self-awareness and self-consciousness. The two fundamental necessities are rational thinking and intuitive thinking. Through applying both those qualities, we're supposed to figure out that we're part of each other, which leads to the experience of love. Interestingly enough, the purpose of having a physical body that grows weak with age, according to Ra, was to move us toward compassion and caring, as we watch each other's bodies deteriorating. Once we learn this quality of love, we then move on to the higher densities, where our incarnations are considerably longer. The cycle for all incarnations in the third density, Ra says, is 75,000 years. Fourth density, perceiving others as part of the self. Here is a plane of compassion, where we achieve the ability to understand the sorrows of the third density. Individual differences are still pronounced, but harmony is created through group consensus, because people know what others are thinking. As the fourth dimension evolves, the group of mind/body/spirit complexes, that is people, become able to form a social memory complex, where all experiences of each entity are available to the whole. The typical time for one incarnation in the fourth density is 90,000 years, and the entire cycle of experience for all incarnations in this density takes 30 million Earth years. Fifth density, wisdom and instant manifestation. The lessons of compassion learned in the fourth density have led to wisdom in the fifth. Fifth density entities may dissolve one manifestation and create another at will. Sixth density, the experience of the self as light. Ra is a sixth density entity. This cycle of experience is 2.5 million years. Seventh density, culmination. The seventh density is the completed being, the creator who knows itself and compacts into the one creation once again, as it readies to enter the eighth density. Eighth density, return to infinity. According to Ra, there is a mystery here, which cannot be put into words. Just as in the musical scale, the eighth density is also the first density of the next octave. Since each entity has free will, the timelines given above are flexible. No entities can be forced to move up the density ladder until they are ready and have chosen to do so. Higher density entities, on the sixth level and beyond, can serve as the higher selves for lower dimensional entities. Sometimes we refer to them as spirit guides. There is an incomprehensible majesty to the whole scenario. Here we are in the third density, with bodies made up of first and second density materials from our ancient past, with a high self that represents the future self, what we will grow into. 2. Wanderers. A wanderer is an entity who has made the conscious decision to reincarnate into the third density of Earth from a higher density, in order to assist in the raising of consciousness on the Earth plane. Ra says that there are 65 million wanderers currently on Earth. When the choice is made to be a wanderer on Earth, the entity knows that it will forget its original origin once it incarnates and subjects itself to the dangers of getting trapped here. The challenge and danger to the wanderer is that it will become karmically involved and thus be swept into the maelstrom and turbulence which it intended to avert. If wanderers can penetrate their forgetting, they have the ability to greatly accelerate consciousness on this plane. Unawakened wanderers tend to have feelings of alienation because of the chasm between the density of their origins and the density on the planet. They often exhibit allergies. We can speculate that many readers of this article may fall into the category of wanderers, as might people who suffer from such New Age maladies as Epstein-Barr's and chronic fatigue, people who have a difficult time reconciling their higher density existence with the third density. The law of one. There is no right or wrong. There is no polarity. According to Ra, the belief in polarity is chosen instead of understanding the complete unity of thought that binds all things together. You are everything, every being, every emotion, and every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love, light. You are. The law of one says all things are one creator. Thus, seeking the creator is done not just in meditation and in the work of the adept, but in the experience of every moment. In each infinitesimal part of yourself resides the one in all its power. Space, time v. Time, space. Ra makes an interesting differentiation between space, time and time, space. Space, time, he says, describes our waking experience of third-dimensional life, whereas time, space describes how we experience ourselves in between lives. So the process of incarnation involves a transition from time, space to space, time. In space, time, we have control over space, in that we can move our bodies freely from one place to another. But in space, time we experience time as a relative, linear phenomenon over which we have no control. In time, space, Ra says, each entity is located in a somewhat immobile state in space and has the experience of all lifetimes as if they were occurring at the same time. In space, time, it is not possible to determine the course of events beyond the incarnation, but only to correct present imbalances. In time, space, on the other hand, it is not possible to correct any imbalanced actions but rather to perceive the imbalances and thusly forgive the self for that which is. The advantage of time, space is the fluidity of the overview. The advantage of space, time is that, working in darkness, with just a tiny candle, one may correct the imbalances. Eventually, after many lifetimes, an entity in space, time will gain a conscious awareness of its existence in time, space, and then may play a more active, participatory role in its evolution. Intuition, inspiration, psychic ability, and tantric sex, according to Ra, all serve to bridge the chasm between space, and time, space. But there is no fixed dividing line. In space, time there are people with extraordinary psychic abilities who can tap into the time, space world and communicate with beings on the other side. And beings in time, space can manifest in space, time as what we call ghosts. Time, space is no more homogeneous than space, time. It is as complex and complete a system of illusions, dances, and patterns as is space, time, and has as structured a system of what you would call natural laws. Every planet with third density entities has a corresponding time, space. The veil of forgetfulness. Why can't we remember our previous lives? It is only within the third density evolutionary process that the veil of forgetfulness exists. If there were no potential for misunderstanding, there would be no experience. It is necessary for the third density entity to forget where it comes from so that the mechanism of confusion or free will may operate upon the newly individuated consciousness complex. So, apparently, the need to make choices without conscious understanding of all the ramifications is a necessary evolutionary step in the growth of an entity. In other words, we need to learn faith. If there were no veil of forgetfulness, then one would always understand the ramifications of one's choices, and life would be entirely predictable. In a predictable system, free will cannot exist. The Coming Ascension. According to Ra, our planet is coming to the end of its 75,000-year third density cycle. The year 2011 is when that cycle is projected to end. Since not everyone on the planet is ready to move into the fourth density, however, when Ra moved into the fourth density, only 20% of the Venusian population was ready. The remaining third density entities reincarnate on a different third density planet. Ra says that to be eligible for graduation, or harvesting, into the fourth density, we must have a 51% orientation towards service to others. We do not have to understand the law of one or have esoteric, metaphysical knowledge in order to ascend. Part of this ascension process, Ra says, will involve the temporary end of all life forms on planet Earth while the planet is readied for its new fourth-dimensional inhabitants. At this time, entities who need additional third-dimensional experience will find themselves on a different planet, where they may unfold their karma. And those who graduate will reincarnate on the new Earth. Closing thoughts. Of course, we do not present Ra's commentary as fact. There is no way of knowing whether all this is true, or whether the prophesied coming shift will actually happen. But whether we take imminent ascension as truth or myth, the death of our physical bodies is inevitable for all of us, sooner or later. And, practically speaking, whether or not Ra's description of the coming ascension actually happens or not, if we were to do those things that would ensure our best positioning for such an event, that would certainly increase the quality of our lives and life on this planet. So what seems important is not to anticipate the future with fear, but rather to live each moment with an awareness of being part of everything. Here are some closing thoughts from Ra to help us do that. A third-density entity can accelerate its growth much more while alive in a physical body than in between incarnations. If an entity chooses to accept responsibility for each moment of experience, then this empowers its progress. Live from the heart, not from technique. We are all one. The fundamental teachings of all planes of existence are unity, love, light, and joy. The second-ranking lessons are in meditation and service. Contemplate the following. Each moment contains love. The universe is one being. When you view another, see the Creator. Gaze within a mirror. See the Creator. Gaze at the creation which lies about the mind/body/spirit of each entity. See the Creator. The best way of service to others is to open the self to others without hesitation and radiate that which is the essence, or the heart. Become aware of the other as being the same as yourself. Accept all experiences, distilling from them the light, love within them. That which is not needed falls away. The offering of self to the Creator is the greatest service.